Hey, Steve. Oh, you're on mute.
Captain, ship's back.
There you are. Welcome, welcome. Look at all these squares filling up on the screen. This is beautiful. I had to, as we're waiting for folks to jump in here, it was very important that I have at least a 2-minute gap between the last Zoom and this one to restock on supplies.
Yes.
Yeah. Welcome, everybody. Just showing up. We're going to give folks another couple minutes to join the party, and then we'll get started in just a minute or two. See some familiar faces here, some familiar names anyway, not a lot of faces. Roberto, welcome. Haven't seen you in a while. Everyone's on mute, by the way, so if you would like to talk, please just unmute yourself so we can hear you.
Yeah, good to see you too. Yep.
How's
New school year.
How's work today? How's school treating you?
Yeah, seven periods this year. So yeah, so I'm trying to get two through college, so
Yes,
I'm teaching
indeed.
that extra class this year. So
Nice.
so far so good. So far so good.
You showing those kids who's boss?
Yeah, I'm trying to. You once you get into mid-September, then you become a cream puff, but yeah, the first couple of weeks you try to be a tough, pretend to be tough, but
Nice.
yeah.
Nice, man. Well, it's great to see you. I see
Yeah.
Bruce Bowers here. Hey, Bruce.
Hi there. How you doing, Steger?
What's going on, man? Nice to see you.
Yeah, likewise.
All right. The over-under tonight is, I think I was telling some of the folks here, I'm guessing 15 to 30, I'm going to say. 15 to 30 people. We'll see if that's at all close by the end of it. We'll give folks just another minute and a half to join, then we'll get started. Hey, Elena. Haven't seen you in a long time.
Been a while.
Yes, for those who don't know, Elena and I, for a while, we were talking daily. Lately, it's been a little bit less frequently.
Yeah, a lot of work. If people don't know, Sagar takes like 3 meetings a day. So he's a very busy person.
I could say much the same about you, but but it's good. I gotta tell you guys, it's such a joy seeing so many folks, because for a while there, Elena remembers this. We'd say, hey, we want to discuss something like the WarnMe's, and then it would be like me and Elena, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's great. I see Joelle is here. Joelle, welcome. And by the way, everyone's on mute, so if you would like to speak, just unmute yourself. All right, I have 4 minutes past the hour, so I'm sure folks will continue to jump in over the next few minutes, but why don't we go ahead and get started? I am recording this meeting, so just so everybody is aware, I think when you joined, it probably told you that. But the reason is because next week, a couple of us, me, Elena, Steve here, we're going to be meeting with somebody who works in the Clary reporting office at UC Berkeley to discuss the WarnMe system. And I invited them tonight, but there was a conflict for that. But I thought by sharing this recording after the fact, there may be some things that are helpful for them to observe or hear directly from parents, that could be of use. So just be mindful that we are recording. I want to welcome everybody, especially I know that there's a bunch of new Cal parents here whose kids are just starting their first year at Cal, or who have transferred in. So welcome. We're thrilled to have you here. Welcome to Safe Bears. I'm also going to embarrass Joelle here because we have some friends from Safe Horns, which is the parent safety group at UT Austin, that Safe Bears drew incredible inspiration from, because they've been doing this not only longer than we have, but they've been incredibly effective at bringing meaningful change to UT Austin and making it safer for the kids who are enrolled there. So Joelle, welcome, thrilled to see you. We may also have friends from the University of Georgia at Athens. I'm not sure if they're going to join, but they were invited to join tonight. Thought it might be useful to get some best practices if things come up that they can relate to, they can share examples about. Just a couple of ground rules. This is an open conversation, but because I think my screen maxes out at 16 squares, but there's at least 16 of us here. So please make use of the raise hand icon. I think it's, Elena, is there a raise hand thing here, or am I totally misdirecting folks?
Yep, there should be right here.
Okay, cool. In Zoom, there should be a little raise hand thing. There's also a chat, which we welcome you guys to jump in on, to have a little side conversation going. If you'd like to ask a question but don't want to speak, you can put it in the chat and we'll be scanning that as we go. What else? We have a hard stop tonight at 7:15, which is, for those not in West Coast time, it's about a little over an hour from now. So we're going to try to be courteous and let everybody speak, and including me. I'll stop talking in just a moment. So that's it. We're talking about the WarnMe system tonight, which, as I think all of you guys know, is the notification system that UC Berkeley sends out to members of the Cal community, including us parents as well. A lot of us have been receiving these for quite a while now, and we have some questions, and we think that there's some room for improvement as well. We're not the only ones who feel that way. There was an op-ed published in the student newspaper, the Daily Cal, about a month and a half, 2 months ago, which also called for improvements to the WarnMe system. So it's nice when the stars align and we're all kind of, students and parents are kind of thinking along the same lines. So having said that, I do want to open this up. If somebody has a burning topic about WarnMes or a burning question about WarnMes that they would like to ask, please take yourselves off mute. Again, use the raise hand feature if that's there, and let's start getting into this. Steve, I'm going to cold call you just because that's how I roll. Would you mind, Steve, starting off, maybe raising an important topic on the WarnMes, something maybe that we were discussing earlier?
Yeah, and Sagar, I would absolutely love Steve and Stefan to introduce themselves. These two have been working tirelessly on this, so I'm really excited that they're part of our team.
Awesome. Great idea.
Hi, everybody. Steve Ravelette. My daughter just started this year at Berkeley. I didn't really know much about Berkeley. I'm down in San Diego, and I'm quickly discovering different things about Berkeley, good and the bad. And one of the issues I thought that could use some assistance of all of us is helping the police departments, the city, kind of focus, what I call refocusing their efforts to help our kids as they work so hard to get where they're at. And I just wanted them to be able to go to school in a safe environment. And I'm right near the airport, so sorry about the plane. One of my main several about the WarnMe's concerns is the timeliness of when they go out. Also, what type of crimes specifically are supposed to be reportable.
Great. Stefan, can we embarrass you by having you introduce yourself also?
Sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Stefan. Hopefully you don't hear too bad of an echo, but I am a current UC Berkeley student who I've been helping out Safe Bears with a little bit. I do reporting on Twitter, or X now. If you ever see any of those tweets that go over what's going on where, the updates, suspect descriptions, that's all me. I'm always listening to some radio or another. So if you only have questions on what's going on around and everything, you can feel free to tag me. I put my tag name in my username. So if you want to follow that and check it out, you can tag me if you notice something going on. But otherwise, I'm here to help any way I can and give some info on different types of systems.
Thanks, Stefan. All right, I'm gonna follow up on something Steve said a moment ago, the timeliness of these alerts. So this has come up a lot. The idea that for the WarnMe's to be really useful, they have to be sent out in a timely manner. There was a specific incident over the summer that illustrated, what's happening. There was a young woman, some of you guys know this story, who was on a scooter. It was late, I think like 1, 2 in the morning, and she was attacked by someone. At first, she thought she had struck somebody by accident. She got down off her scooter and went to help the person. Turns out it was a ruse. The guy attacked her. Luckily, she was unharmed, but in that case, my understanding, and Elena, please correct me when I go astray here, the incident itself happened, let's say at 2 in the morning. The WarnMe went out a few hours later. Is that right? A couple hours later? Yeah. And then when it did go out, is that the case where it was pretty much blank? The first WarnMe was blank, and then it was followed just a couple minutes later by one that said, hey, there's a dangerous situation at this part of town. Avoid until further notice. Am I getting that correct? Okay.
That's correct.
So one of the obvious problems here, guys, is, during that time, those 2 hours, who knows how many other students, not even just students, how many other folks might have walked down that same area without knowing that there was someone who was still at large at that point. The guy wasn't arrested for a couple weeks. By not knowing that information, it seems to be putting other people at harm potentially. Have other people, first of all, have other people seen that lag exists the way that we are describing? Yeah, I see a couple thumbs up. Now, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm doing all the talking. Really, you guys, I'm encouraging you guys, take yourselves off mute, please jump in. It's our understanding, our assumption, I think, that the WarnMes that are being sent by UCPD officers. So the person who is sending a WarnMe is now pulled off of the other duties that they were doing during that shift. That may account for some of the lag times we see, some of the sporadic natures of, some WarnMes are sent a little bit faster, some are sent hours later. But I think we agree that it needs to be a more consistent, shorter lag time. So that's one of the requests that we're going to be making to the administration. All right, Elena, I'm going to let you jump in on on the next one.
Okay. We were just discussing earlier about the fraternity where they were being investigated for a hate crime. So according to a Cleary crime report, there should have been a WarnMe sent out. And we're trying to figure out why one was not sent out for that. That's another example that we're going to bring to the administration, hopefully, and to figure that out. But I think, as Sagar was saying, and as Steve and Stefan were saying, the timeliness of this, a lot of issues have been happening around KIPS. So, when you see the crimes coming out, Stefan does an incredible job putting them out, almost such a great job, but reading those can be terrifying. And one, sweep, I think it was in a couple of days, there was a man who was nude on a van close to KIPS. There was someone on top of a building of new construction, lighting things on fire, throwing things off, sort of in that vicinity. The scooter situation happened to be someone stalking someone from KIPS. So that particular area, in my opinion, should definitely warrant a WarnMe, since most of our students go there. So I think that's another question that we have for administration and the Cleary response team, is to say, hey, what is the geography? We would like to know, because this seems inconsistent. We were just reading about Unit 3. I hope this is okay to speak about. The Unit 3, someone taking a picture in the shower. So we were wondering why a WarnMe or some sort of warning, at least to Unit 3 residents, didn't go out. Does anyone have a student in Unit 3? Did they receive a response? or a warning? Do any parents know what I'm talking about? Because I mean, to me, that was disturbing. So if my student was in Unit 3 and there was someone in a shower taking a picture or whatever, I would want to know. Because last year we had several incidences where an unhoused person would get in there, take a shower, or an unhoused person was running through the hallways, and we did receive those WarnMe. So I was just wondering why that one didn't go out.
Yeah.
My
And there's
my daughter's in Unit 3 and did not get notified.
Were you aware of that incident happening?
Only from the Slack site, and I told her, and of course now she's freaking out. But and Sagar, sorry I didn't get a chance to call you. I'm just got out of work now, so maybe we'll catch up later on that. But no, only because of this site did I know about it.
Well, I would love to ask Bruce. So if people have not met Bruce, he is UCPD retired, and we're so thankful that he's here to answer all of our questions because we have a million of them. Bruce, do you have a suggestion as to why maybe a WarnMe did not go out?
Oh, Bruce, you're on mute.
Okay.
There we go. Oh,
You're still on mute. Yeah, maybe let me see if I have the power.
I think you can unmute him.
Okay.
Am I
Hey,
on
Bruce.
mute?
Now you're
there
on.
we go.
Okay. Yeah, I'm talking. Okay. No, I don't. Frankly, I retired 13 years ago. We didn't even have WarnMe at the time. That's interesting. I'm wondering if WarnMe is handled by dispatch. Somebody mentioned an officer would do it. Usually the officers are, in my experience, are out of the station dealing with whatever's going on at the time. I would guess it would either be someone in dispatch or perhaps the duty sergeant that would send out a WarnMe, but that's just guesstimate. I really don't have any particular knowledge about that.
I don't know if this already came up, but sorry I came late. This is Emily from the Berkeley scanner. But I was surprised to learn that if they catch someone, they don't have to put out a WarnMe, which I think is weird because, you know, it's still an incident of concern, but I guess legally they don't have to and often don't. So I don't know if they made an arrest or if it has been so hit or miss. So there just really seems to be no rhyme or reason.
Hey, Emily, we just discovered that crime mapping is back up and running. Did you see that?
I did. I had followed up with them and I looked this morning and asked them about it when I saw that it was up, because I actually saw there has been this like spike in auto thefts and I was asking them to explain it to me, and so I'm supposed to talk to them. But yeah, I did.
That's good,
that.
at least for us.
Nice.
So I think there's just concerns all around. So if Unit 3 students were not aware of this happening, then how could they prevent it? You know, like say you're getting ready to go take a shower and this is happening. How would you know?
Yeah. I think that first of all, welcome, Emily. It's nice to see you. I think that there's been a couple incidents like this. We mentioned the young woman on the scooter over the summer who was attacked, and how there was a 2-hour gap between that event and the WarnMe that occurred. In the case of Unit 3 here, for those who don't know, apparently somebody was taking pictures of folks in the shower. That was very recent. That was this week. And then you guys may also have seen that very recently, Berkeley police are now investigating a hate crime against Alpha Epsilon Pi, UC Berkeley's Jewish fraternity. Someone or some group dumped shellfish on their property, and we threw it through the windows of the dorm also. And this was on Saturday, which is the Jewish Sabbath day, so it's being investigated as a hate crime. So, you know, in that case, again, unless somebody here can correct me on this, I don't believe any kind of WarnMe went out. It is worth saying that there is a subjective element to the sending of WarnMes. I'm not a lawyer, but Emily, you kind of raised this, that if somebody is arrested, does that mean that there is no need for a WarnMe? Now, a couple of days ago, UC Berkeley sent out an email on the WarnMe system that just clarifies what the WarnMes are and why they send them. And if I could just read this one part, I think it's relevant. The campus is required by federal law, the Clery Act, to notify the community when certain crimes that could pose a serious or ongoing threat to the campus are reported on or near campus property, or if there is an immediate threat to the health and safety of the campus community. So I guess if I'm thinking about this, if someone's doing something, someone's engaged in a criminal act and they are arrested, they're apprehended, well, there's no ongoing threat, presumably, to the community. But that may be fine, but that doesn't address the other issues we just talked about where, suspects are so at large. We don't know who did it. If there was an attack against, the Jewish fraternity on Saturday, it seems like that's important information that should be shared with the campus community, because folks might go about their business having no idea. Just being aware that this threat exists might make folks take different actions and be a little bit more careful.
Sagar, I think that falls in the line of the 3 different types of notifications that Berkeley has listed that they can do. You have the emergency notification, you have the timely warning, and then you have the community advisory. So some of those I would say the advisory would say, hey, we've actually worked this case, made the arrest. That would be a great thing to actually put out, maybe in an email, not necessarily like in a text message or a push notification. It doesn't qualify as the emergency or the timely warning category. I think there should be some follow-up. We've looked at UCLA. They've had WarnMes that have gone out and they've actually followed up when they have made an arrest through the investigative process. So I think sending out these, way past the time they happen and sometimes never following up saying, we actually did a good job essentially in our police work and we made an arrest, and that's something it makes the public feel better, or at least it does for me.
And go ahead. Can I go after you, Bruce?
Okay, just one suggestion. I live in a small farming town about 70 miles from Cal, and we have something called Pulse Point. It's an app, and when there's a fire department call out, the town siren goes off and everybody goes to their cell phone and hits this Pulse Point. It lists the incident, the number of trucks that are going, the location, and it's got a little speaker button you can click that will give you the radio traffic. I'm sure Stephen might know about that. And you can actually monitor in real time what the fire department is doing and how they're handling whatever situation they're going to. I'm wondering if Pulse Point might have that, or your notification system might have something like that, or be able to add something, give the campus community an actual online real-time look at what's going down while they're responding.
I can jump in there for a second. I actually know some people over at Pulse Point who I've talked to for a while. Berkeley was approached by them, or they approached Berkeley a while back. It's the cost of the system that they charge, I think, a couple $100,000 every couple of years to run the system. It's expensive, and a lot of smaller departments don't like doing it. I have other platforms which I work with down in LA who are willing to do it up here cheaper. So I'm looking to maybe bring that up to the different city council people, see if they're willing to implement something like that. In terms of live notifications, I stream the radio live. You can toggle it, you can listen to it as much as you want. You can look at the recording. So there is that there, just it's not that publicly aware compared to something that would be in an app.
I was just going to say, on the subject of the different timely warnings, or the different kinds of notices, I feel like they rely on saying, well, if someone's arrested, we're not required to do it. But is that really the question? Is that the level of service? So like if I were a parent advocate, I would sort of ask them, well, yeah, you may not be required to do it, but would you be willing to do, if it's an incident of concern, could you still possibly put it out? Are you really prohibited from doing it? And I sort of doubt they are. So I think that would be one question for that meeting. And then if you were also looking for examples, and I'm sorry if this came up, but where they didn't send one, I'm sure everybody remembers last year that man in distress who kind of went into the school building and was screaming, and all the students were posting about it on Reddit and everywhere, and he was not apprehended. I mean, he was at large, and people were in fear for their lives, and they never sent a WarnMe about it. So it's just extremely inconsistent. I don't know if we just have to keep a running tally of these examples and just keep calling them out on it, but they do seem to really need to do better.
Yeah, for those, Emily, thank you for raising that. I'm going to put a link in the chat here for those who who are not familiar with that episode. This is worth looking at because I think you're so right. This is in February, a person, it turns out, I think it was a student who was going through a kind of a crisis, went into a classroom building, the life sciences building, and shouted that everybody there was going to die. And this prompted pretty much everybody to go into active shooter mode, as you might expect. And there were a number of things that, so first of all, nobody was hurt, which, thank goodness. No WarnMe was sent. And it's my understanding, and Stefan and Steve, please correct me if I get this wrong here, but it's my understanding the individual responsible for this, he left, and people were still in a state of panic in the building for some time, and there was confusion as to what was going on. Was it an active shooter drill? Should they stay locked in their room? Should they not? There were other things that emerged, like, some doors didn't lock. There was no cell phone service for some people, like other things that we are concerned about. But the lack of WarnMe, certainly, considering that the person who prompted all this was not apprehended. Seems like a real egregious additional example, like you're saying, Emily.
Well, since we're talking about active shooter, obviously a lot of us have seen, unfortunately, what happened at UNC, but the similarities between what happened, if you were around April 27th, 2022, that's when UC Berkeley went on a lockdown. So, that was unfortunate. The person that they were looking for was not on campus, but the entire campus went on lockdown. And the same things that we were hearing again with the active shooter situation from UNC, some of the students said that the doors did not lock. UC Berkeley, a lot of professors said the doors did not lock. They were also saying that calls could not be made from certain rooms. Some professors were saying that they were fearful they were not getting access to warnings. They didn't know what was going on. And we all looked at that during that time, and there was supposed to be an assessment. So one of the things we've asked Chief Pittman, and also Sagar, who else have we asked for an assessment? And I know, Steve, you were looking at that. We want to know what the assessment says about that building. But we're not alone, because UNC is also looking at things that went right and things that went wrong during their shooting. But it really goes down a rabbit hole. Who were we asking about the assessments? It feels like it was Nancy Gilmore.
I think it's Joe Magnus also.
Joe Magnus.
Yeah. If I can just two things. First, Elena happens to live pretty close to UNC, so I know she's been following that story very, very closely. Going to the incident that Elena spoke about just a moment ago, I can speak directly to this because at this point, my kids were prospective Cal students. I got twin boys who now are in their sophomore year, but back then we had arrived on campus for a campus tour. I think it was April of 2022. And we showed up at, I think it was the stadium. We're waiting, like beautiful day, but no one's there. It was like a ghost town. And after about 45 minutes of kind of wandering around, another family kind of pulled over and they said, "Hey, you guys shouldn't be out here. There's like an active shooter thing going on." And I was like, "What? Really?" She's like, "Yeah, you should take shelter right now." And I'm glad she told us this. So, we got back in the car and we went somewhere else. Now, to be fair, nobody was enrolled yet, but there was no way for us to know that anything dangerous was occurring on campus. That seemed like a real hole as well in the net. can I talk about an adjacent topic here, which is the way the notifications go out. For those who don't know, the student newspaper at Cal is called the Daily Cal. And there was an editorial published a few months ago, which I'm going to share in the chat here. You can check it out yourselves, in which the editorial board is discussing the WarnMe system. And they're calling for a couple of changes, some of which overlaps with what we're calling for here, like more timely notifications, first and foremost. But also there was an idea that, look, the students are not going to be checking email the way that, we are. Maybe it's a generational thing, I don't know. But they said, it would be better, in this editorial, they say it'd be better if students were automatically enrolled in SMS delivery for these notifications, because then they'll pay attention, they'll see it more easily. And I think, Steve, you told me that, am I misquoting you, that that's what they do at UCLA?
That's correct. The primary is through SMS or text messaging.
Yeah, so that's another very, I think, hopefully an easy thing, if you guys agree that as much as we certainly want to be better informed as parents of Cal students, I think that we all agree that we want to make sure that our students who are there have access to those alerts as quickly as possible so they can take whatever steps they need. And if SMS delivery is part of the solution, I'm all for it.
Question. Has anybody considered the possibility of like a campus-wide emergency alert siren? I know they've got supposedly a PA system that will reach the entire campus, including outdoors, but even, a siren would actually alert people to jump on their, WarnMe or SMS or whatever they're using. It would sort of, get the entire community on board with the fact that there's some sort of an emergency going on.
Yeah. Elena, you want to deal with this one?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure if you have that video we were sharing, but and I think Stefan, you had said, because you saw the video as well. So UNC's siren went off and it was so loud and the PA system was so clear. It was saying there's a dangerous person on campus, go indoors. So people were told first and foremost what was happening and what to do. So there was no questioning about any of that, as opposed to, I think, what happened with our lockdown a little bit in April. But I know that we were just talking to earlier today that the city of Berkeley is updating their sirens. And Stefan, I believe you were saying that UC Berkeley has one, but it's not as loud as
Yeah, we have 4 sirens across the campus. They don't publish the locations. I sent out a public information request for them, but that could take weeks. They're not that loud in my opinion. I've been in libraries and in different buildings during the tests once a month. You can't hear anything. Don't even know what's going on. So it for sure needs an update.
That UNC video I just shared, by the way, it's I should have probably given a trigger warning. It doesn't show any violence or anything like that, but it does show students in distress going into a classroom. So just be aware when you watch it. It's a little bit hard to watch.
It also talks about, I think the person that was recording that is a person from a foreign student, somebody not from the United States. So at first he was confused about what was going on until the actual announcement. It's like an air raid warning. And then the announcement started, seek shelter, go inside. Then he says, oh my God, I didn't know what was going on. Now I do. So I think in a combination of text message, something that gets to people quickly, people that are indoors, like Stefan said, where you're not going to hear, especially, I'm not sure how old Berkeley's system is, but they have 4 of them. It's a pretty big campus. Hopefully they work together with the city. That's something else we could look into as well, to see if they can combine those systems to work together, since the population is Berkeley's like 50,000 people. It's about half the size of Berkeley itself. So there's a lot of folks that need to be warned appropriately. And I think we need to find out. We're going to find out exactly how the system works at UC Berkeley and go from there.
Right, and since we're talking about this, Bruce, we chatted a little bit about the video that's available to all students, the lightning strikes video. So a lot of campuses use this active shooter lightning strikes video, and you can look it up. Sagar, if you have the link, you can drop it in. There's two of them. There's one for workspace, and then there's another one for campuses. And what we were saying during the Golden Bear orientation, how many students were told to look at this video? Because another thing that you'll see in the video for UNC, people are having to make, a snap seconds count decision as to what to do. And someone made a comment about, I think it was a professor from UC Berkeley that said, they saw students jumping from the second floor trying to get down. So according to this video, depending on what these students learn, the first step is to find a path to evacuate. And I'm just curious, during your orientation, if any students were able to watch that video, that lightning strikes video. Yeah, so, to me, that's a concern as well, right? Because we have a lot of freshmen in North Carolina, and I'm talking about this because it's right in my backyard. In North Carolina, in high schools, because we've had situations, there's a lot of active shooter drills, and they're taught certain things. But some students in this video that Sagar posted in UNC didn't know quite what to do, and then someone says, "We need to barricade the door." So, they need to shut the lights off. They need to barricade the door if they can't find a path to escape. But anyway, it's an interesting video to look for. And then maybe that's something we can bring up with Cal once again, is that, do students have access to this video? And it's not to scare anyone. I think all of this can sound scary. It's to be prepared, right? To be prepared, make sure that Cal is doing what they're supposed to be doing, and our students are as best prepared going into this.
Yeah.
I can speak to the availability of the video. It's actually on the UCPD website, and it's also, I believe, on YouTube. And anybody can download it. I agree, it's an excellent video. It's something that every student should see. We don't want to scare them too much, but it's the age we live in. It's a skill that's necessary.
Oh, I found it. Sorry, I was looking for it, but I couldn't find it. Now I found it. So if this link I just put in the chat, it's on the bottom right corner, called When Lightning Strikes. I'm not sure if we touched upon this at all, guys, but another question I have is about the geographic area that is covered by WarnMe. At some point, I think it was Vice Chancellor Mark Fisher who mentioned that one of the many things that makes UC Berkeley unique among UC schools is that all the student dorms are off campus. And, I think it's safe to assume that if a dangerous situation occurs on campus, that should result in a WarnMe. What if it happens on Telegraph and Dwight? What if it happens on Shattuck? Just because it's not strictly speaking on campus, one would hope if it's in an area where students are heavily concentrated, that would be fair game. It's unclear to me what that area is. I don't know if anybody else, Bruce or anybody else, happens to have any information on that, but that's one of the questions we plan to ask the administration next week.
Well, that is the classic dilemma at UC Berkeley. You've got town and gown, each with their own police departments. So finding ways for them to communicate and work well together is always a challenge. But I would hope that they're able to come up with some way that the city can warn UC and UC can warn the city if regardless of whose jurisdiction the threat is happening on.
Yeah.
It's less than a mile, but it is something like a quarter mile or half mile, or I believe it's less than a mile, but there is a radius outside. And I just can't believe, especially all the things that happen on Shattuck or maybe northwest of campus. There's all kinds of things happening, where people aren't being arrested, but they're crimes that we're certainly never hearing about. So
Right.
oh,
No, go ahead, Emily.
I was going to slightly shift topics, so I'll let you.
I was also going to mention that UC's jurisdiction also includes things as far away as University Albany Village, which is the family housing, Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory up in the hills, which is 4,500 employees up there, and it's a huge place. And even Albany Village comes up with WarnMe type situations on a regular basis. So whatever they put in place, it's going to have to cover a lot of area, just besides the immediate area of Southside there.
Yeah.
So Bruce, you're saying like if as they're continuing to build and having developments go in, or developers are developing and the school are starting to lease these apartment buildings and having the students go in, so those buildings itself and the surrounding areas would, in theory, I guess, fall into the same category of UCPD operating area, or their footprint's going to go a little bit further out into the city, just based upon the need of how the housing's being set up, like along Shattuck or somewhere on the west side, and then definitely the several blocks to the south of the school. It just seems the footprint's so much larger than we're giving it credit for, and it needs more clarification, at least on our part, of when and how and what areas are part of that responsibility of UCPD.
Right. UCPD, at least when I was there, operated 3 beats, and they all kind of start in the center of campus and move out to infinity. And one of them includes such things as University Albany Village. Another one includes the Berkeley Hills and Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory. And the third covers Southside. So, you're talking about huge areas that they're responding to for all kinds of crimes. So, whatever system they come up with is going to be warning people in a lot of different areas besides just the immediate area around the campus.
So when you're on, the department was much larger. Is that correct?
Yes, it was twice as large as it is today. And I was a detective, so for about half of my career, that's kind of the area I was playing in, as opposed to patrol. But we interact a lot.
I wanted to bring up one issue, which I don't know how it can be resolved, but it's the issue of sort of accuracy of the information that's coming out. And obviously there's always a tension between getting things out fast and getting accurate info. It's true for my job as well as what police are doing. I recall, there have been a number of WarnMe's that have come out just in the past year that are just flat out wrong. And what often happens is UC is putting out WarnMe's about BPD cases. There is no communication between those two departments. It's like UCPD, I don't know if they just are listening to the BPD channels, but I have regularly sort of, when a bad WarnMe goes out, I'll ask BPD, well, did they check with you? And it's like, no, we had no idea this was going out. We wouldn't have wanted this to go out, or this wasn't right. I remember one of them was like, a woman said she had been like stabbed or slashed by some stranger. This was in the spring, I think, but apparently nothing had happened. And these things go out depending on the time of day. News stations kind of pick them up just whole hog without vetting them. And ideally they would be accurate, but it's also ideally we would always check to confirm that it's correct. So there's a lot of layers. But I know with the fraternity incident over the weekend, I was talking to BPD about it today, and they said they had, and I think Berkeley side actually also did a story, but I haven't seen it. But when I was talking to the detective earlier, they said actually this group threw this shellfish on a number of fraternities it was not
Hmm.
motivated as a hate crime. When they found out it was a Jewish fraternity, they like went back and apologized because, you know, they were trying to prank people, but they weren't trying to do a hate crime. And so I don't know, I haven't investigated this deeply myself, but that was the latest information I was told by BPD who did investigate it. So there's just like, it's difficult because these incidents come out and it's really can be very terrifying sometimes, but sometimes it is like completely wrong, especially with the UCPD WarnMe's, especially the ones that come out sort of in the middle of the night. So I just would say you can't always, and people don't always vet it or correct it. They never correct it. And so it's sort of on reporters and media to find out, did this happen? And then when am I going to do a story that says a stabbing didn't happen? I don't know. It's just like a tricky
Yeah.
issue. I can share it with Safe Bears. Actually, that wasn't the case. But I mean, how do you actually put the good information out to everyone? So that's just a ramble, an issue that I have encountered, especially in the past year.
You know, Emily, it's a really good point. I think to me, like obviously the accuracy is important. I think a second item of importance for me is I don't know if you guys see these like I do, but it seems like there's a lot of blank WarnMes that go out, or maybe there's like a subject line, or I've seen some in the past that just included like a JPEG attachment but no text. I'm not sure if I'm the only one getting these, but you look at this and it's almost like a board game. Like, okay, well, what situation could I construct that would make this make sense? And then sometimes it's followed up a few minutes later with something that has more information. Sometimes it's not. But I mention this because the lack of information, I think, is also a problem. If I'm a student and I'm getting an inbox full of WarnMes, like I'm sure we all have seen. On the one hand, great, I would like to be informed. But if a lot of them are low to no value, it's going to increase the odds a lot that I miss the one or two that really are important. Or I might just, my phone bings and I see that it's WarnMe and I just kind of ignore it because, I'm always getting WarnMes, and a lot of the time maybe they're light or just non-existent on information.
I will cede the floor, but I just want to piggyback on that really quickly. There was an incident in the last few months where it was a fire and they were saying evacuation needed, and it was sort of like the headline of their text alert was like evacuation needed, but they kept putting it out. But then if you clicked through, it was like, oh, it's all safe now. I mean, it's just like, this is horrible messaging, and
Yeah.
they should be able to do better. They should be able to do much better. But if you need an example, that's one.
That was back in May, I think. I remember that one.
Well, I think it's good what Emily brought up about the fraternity because, we were just talking about that. Now, why didn't a WarnMe go out about that? It feels like it would fit the biased Clary crime that should have been broadcast, but maybe they knew that it was still under investigation. So I think that's the whole thing, is that we need a Clary crime 100% to be represented. We need it in a timely manner, and we need it clear and precise, not the messages that Sagar were just talking about, because I've seen them too. So I'm like, now what? Now what just happened? So I think there's room for improvement, and we just have to figure out why UCPD, whether it's understaffing or what's the concern there, like what is happening to where we're not getting those out.
Yeah, I think we don't know who's actually producing and pushing these out. I think that's probably another question, a good starting point of whose responsibility is it? Is it a on duty sergeant, or is it part of dispatch, or is this whoever's in the office? I mean, that may be a reason why it's such inconsistency.
Yeah, kind of ties back to what Bruce was saying earlier about just how depleted the ranks are right now at UCPD. That I'm speculating, but if it is being given to an officer, as I suspect it is, who's being pulled off of their other duties to be able to issue the WarnMe, that's not necessarily going to lead to the most consistent WarnMes going out there, as opposed to someone who is kind of dedicated to that or trained specifically on what information needs to be included. So that's something that we're going to try to get more visibility into.
I'd like to ask the parents too on the call if you've seen anything, because we receive messages all the time to where, some parents will say, well, look, this is what happened, someone experiencing a life crisis issue snuck into a dorm and passed a monitor, and why wasn't there something done about that? So are there any parents on the call that have seen something and wondered why a message didn't go out?
And
You
just
can
as a
always
reminder,
send it to us.
everybody, just as a reminder, everybody's on mute. So you can just
Okay.
unmute yourself on Zoom and then we can hear you.
Or if your kids have sent you Reddits or texts from things happening around campus that you did not get a warning on or hear about other than from that information source.
I do know the pipe, the person that was hit with a pipe, that was on Reddit rather quickly. I know Stefan was helping those folks out. Someone posted on Reddit that their friend had been severely hurt by being hit by a pipe. And so they're like, I'm not sure how long a WarnMe is going to take, but here, be careful, he's heading this way. And Stefan jumped on and was like, here's what he knows. So I think that was a situation where as students in the area would have liked to known what was going on. I know that was scary.
Was that, Elena, was that incident that when the person was attacked with somebody wielding a pipe, was that on or near university property?
It feels like it was Telegraph and Durant.
Yeah, pretty close.
It's the same problem area that I think we just need to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Stefan, if you're listening, do you have any info on that?
I'm trying to pull it up for you right now.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, Elena, if I missed this, but did you say that ultimately a WarnMe was issued in that example, or it never did get issued?
I don't think it was. No, there was an issue, WarnMe, but I don't have it up in front of me. It just felt like it was delayed once again. But I know that Stefan has it, or the information about it anyway.
I see a WarnMe that was sent out about 2503 haste. That's the only one I see as a WarnMe.
This is relevant to what is under discussion right now. I just put a quote in the chat here from that Daily Cal op-ed I mentioned earlier, where the authors, I think it's the editorial staff, they cite the need. It's one thing, we were talking about this earlier, it's one thing to say, well, the situation here is no longer a threat, so it therefore does not warrant the issuance of a WarnMe. Fair enough. But if the reason it's no longer relevant is because you waited 2 hours to report it, that's a different problem, right? That's not a good thing. And I think that's what the writers of that op-ed are zeroing in on. Roberto, any thoughts on this? I know you always have lots of opinions about how we can make Cal safer for our students. You have any thoughts on the WarnMes that we've covered so far? Oh, I think you just went back on mute.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm okay. I'm trying to figure this out because I did have a comment. I'm actually trying to find the message that my daughter sent me, because she's the one that's, I think I'm the one that's shared it with you on the board in Slack, on the board thread. So I'm trying to figure out what time she sent it and what time the alert was actually sent out. So I'm going through my phone here. Yeah,
Do you
go ahead.
remember what incident this was about?
It was the one on Durant and the main street there. I forget the name of the main street.
Telegraph?
Telegraph, exactly. Yeah, it was on Telegraph and Durant, or was it Channing? One of those two. One of those two streets that leads to Unit 3.
Mhm.
So that was the one about the individual that was that had struck someone on the head and hurt them severely. And I shared it with the thread, but I'm trying to find the message from my daughter to see what time it was sent. I think
Oh,
it was
first-
way before. Yeah, I think it was way before 2 p.m.
So you're saying
which
that
is
the amount of
yeah.
time that elapsed from the original um incident to the time the warning was issued was a pretty big delta?
Oh yeah, I mean the fact that it's on Reddit for somebody to be able to you're looking at, I mean, it's an emergency like this for someone to have time to feel that they're safe enough to be able to get on their phone and post it on Reddit. I mean, we're talking, at least 10, 15, 20 minutes, which is a long time for a threat so serious like that. So it'd be interesting to see when the alert was sent out versus when the Reddit post was made.
Mhm.
So I'm looking for that.
Okay,
So yeah, give me a minute, see if I can find it, and I'll come back on.
cool.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
We have a hand raised. Ada, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi. First time parent at Berkeley. My daughter started as a freshman just this fall, and I was just kind of wondering because I haven't received. I think I only have received one WarnMe since the time that she started school. So all these other incidents that have come up, I haven't heard about, and neither has my husband. So I was just kind of wondering. I mean, we are on the system, and we got initially the warnings that during the time that we were there when she was moving in. But other than that, that's all the communication we have received. So, which is, concerning because these things are all happening that we're not being made readily available to know these things. So, just wanted to share that. And if that's something, to pass that along as you meet with the administration.
Thanks, Ada. Well, first, welcome. We're thrilled to have you here. Thanks for.
Great. Thank you.
I just put in the chat as well in case other folks on the call have not been receiving any WarnMes. Maybe you're not signed up, as possible. I just put a link here. It's warnme.berkeley.edu. Ada, to your point, I don't know. I think once you're signed up, you're probably receiving, I think, all the same ones that we are. For me, I will find that a number of WarnMes often land in my spam folder for some reason. I've had to go back in there and kind of excavate stuff from time to time. So it's possibly that may be happening to you also.
I wanted to
Yeah.
jump in as well,
Oh.
just real quick. Sorry to interrupt, Emily. I went back and looked over all the recordings and everything. The Reddit post was related to an incident on August 25th at Durant and Telegraph. The WarnMe was not sent for that, but was sent for one on August 20th at Haste. So I don't think a WarnMe was ever sent for that Durant and Telegraph one because it was BPD, it was not UCPD.
Now that's interesting. So this kind of ties back to what Bruce mentioned a few minutes ago about, the line between UCPD and BPD. Like, if something happens, say in the South Side where, a lot of the students are living, and BPD responds, does that necessarily mean it doesn't result in a WarnMe? I mean, the way I read the quote here from the university, it doesn't sound like that's necessarily should be the case. It just says, when certain crimes occur that could pose a serious or ongoing threat to the campus are reported on or near campus property. Nothing
No,
there about.
UC routinely puts out BPD cases. And I know Sandra has her hand raised, but just on this point quickly, I will say many times UCPD puts out aggravated assault or something, and then I call and I ask about it, and they say, well, actually the person declined medical transport, it wasn't. So I think, as with many of the facts, we also have to be very cautious about the severity of injury, because I would say more times than not, when I call to find out about a UCPD alert, it is much less serious than how it was framed. Or they'll say robbery, but then it turns out it was an attempted robbery. But I think, you know, there is a real need for like vetting this information. And UCPD has one spokesman and then a supervisor who helps him. Neither of them work after hours or weekends, so it can be sometimes impossible to even get verified information during those times. And that could be another advocacy point, is supposedly a sergeant may or a supervisor may answer questions after hours or on the weekends, but that's really up to them. And so they may just say, call back Monday, call back Tuesday, and then you're waiting for 4 or 5 days to even confirm anything. So again, I know it's a real staffing issue. I'm not criticizing the officers who are there, but it's a resource issue, and it depends how important do they think it is to appropriately staff these positions.
Yeah, that's a fair point, Emily. Sandra, please go ahead and take yourself off mute.
Hi, I'm also a first-time parent to UC Berkeley. I do have a daughter at UCLA, so I'm familiar with their way of running kind of safety, all the different safety features. And I was wondering, thank you for posting the WarnMe link, because I have not signed up for it. What I keep hearing is that you get bombarded. Is it by email, or is it a text or an app?
It's primarily, well, I think most of us, it's email. I think there is an option to sign up for SMS.
Okay,
There is-
okay.
there
And
is.
then my other question is, does Berkeley have an app? I know UCLA has a Bruin Safe app where all kinds of safety things like Friend Walk, UCLA Escort Safe Ride, 911, crisis resources, emergency contacts, things like that are all on the app. And you can, at the touch of a button, the students can ask for different kinds of help. Does Berkeley have anything like that? And also they have a ticker with like urgent, urgent safety announcements like evacuations or things like that.
I'll jump in on this one. There is a UC Berkeley mobile app. At least that's what Google is telling me here. But it looks like it shows a variety of things. It's not necessarily safety centric. It shows campus maps, news, air quality index, athletic events. And it does have some safety things like the Bear Transit night shuttle maps and so on. Stefan, maybe as a current Berkeley student, you have a more direct experience with this than I do.
As far as I know, the mobile apps don't contain that much safety aspects into them. It's something we were discussing earlier that maybe something we can look into integrating WarnMe's into for push notifications rather than just emails. They do have at least the school has a emergency page that's supposed to be updated with current alerts, but I haven't seen that used since that shelter in place a year and a half ago. Plus it probably doesn't get updated at all. So it's not something that is currently active.
So in the case of a very an urgent emergency, like shelter in place, I'm sorry, I came to the meeting late. I should say that too. So maybe it was discussed, but how does that information get out? Is it by text? I feel like some is like by email, some is by text.
In theory,
Just
anything
curious.
that's sheltered in place is supposed to be sent through email, through text, and then the sirens on campus are supposed to go off for shelter in places. I didn't see that happening during that last one. I know you were on campus and you said you didn't hear anything. So it's supposed to happen. It didn't at that point. I have a public records request out to them about it. So if they get back to me and say it was in use, then we'll know that it just wasn't effective. But for now, it's the WarnMe's come in emails 90% of the time, and then the 1% of the time is the text messages.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks, Andrew, and welcome. I see that Will has his hand raised. Will, please go ahead and take yourself off mute. Maybe I can do that for you. Will, if you're talking, we are unable to hear you because I think you're still on mute. Oh, we'll come back to him if he can figure that out. Yeah, Stefan, just jumping back on what you said a moment ago. I forget who mentioned this, but you're not the first person to mention the possibility of making the UC Berkeley app a little more useful when it comes to the safety stuff. So even things like, being able to pull up a map and see where the night shuttle is if you're waiting for, a ride at night. Things like this. I mean, the stuff that they have in there looks really cool, but right now information is dispersed over a number of websites at Cal, which can be a little bit disorienting if you don't know where to look.
One thing I can comment on is that a lot of this stuff is on the UCPD website, including the crime mapping and a few of those other things. I occasionally go back and look at my old department and see what they're up to, and they do have a fairly well-stocked website in terms of answering most questions. How well it works for WarnMe and emergency notifications, that's another question, but a lot of the things you would want to know as a entry-level parent or entry-level student, you can probably find on there.
Yeah, that's a great point, Bruce. In fact, and we have to do an update on this, but just a couple of weeks ago, some of us joined a Facebook Live call with the administration and UCPD Chief Pittman, and they shared an updated, I think it was either updated or new website that really shows, like you're saying, Bruce, even more information about here's how many officers we have at UCPD, here's how many we're trying to hire. It was really nice to see just a lot of information being shared. I'll try to find that and put that in the chat here if I can.
I think going back to what Sandra was talking about, UCLA having a good app system with quick access to buttons for different emergencies or getting notifications of WarnMe. And I believe UC Davis has something very similar that works with the same operating system that Berkeley has. So there's plenty of sources to go to and see if that's something we could bring into Berkeley, because we have a lot of computer science gurus and geniuses there. I'm sure we could figure this out fairly quickly.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
great point. I got a question here for Sandra, I think it was. Sandra, you mentioned that you have a student also at UCLA, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations. A great, two great schools. So
Thank you.
Clearly are doing a lot right. A question I have for you is, did you receive the safety notifications from UCLA? And if you do, how do you find them? Are they useful?
Yes, I don't get bombarded by them. We definitely get things by, it seems like evacuation type things. Sometimes there's for some reason, like a lab or something needs to evacuate. I get those by text. If there is, I get a lot of like prowlers, burglaries in like the campus apartments, which are also off campus. And those come by, I get an alert on, I want to say the UCLA PD Facebook page, and then there's a link to the incident. Then those are things like attempted assault or something like that, or prowlers or something involving more of personal safety type things. But I have to say, I don't get bombarded, daily with, a lot of different types of, incidents.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's great. It's also really noteworthy that you get them via text as well. Was that something that you remember, did you initially have to sign up for that? And was the texting was sending it by text the default option? Do you happen to remember?
I don't remember. This is our 4th year, or going into our
Okay.
4th year. So I don't remember how that came about. I know with I did download the app, the Bruin Safe app. And I don't know if those notifications come via the phone number or information I put into the app. I really can't remember, honestly, but I'm pretty sure on the UCPD, I'm sure they have a page where it explains. I remember looking, and they explain all the different types of alerts that are sent out, like I want to say clarity warnings and things like that. So, and they explain how each one is sent out. So that might be something you want to look into as well.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. By the way, for those who grabbed that link earlier, I shared the Daily Cal student opinion piece about the need for improving the WarnMe system. You mentioned the Bruin Safe app, Deborah. They cited that specifically as an example worth emulating at Cal. So I think that it's great that we're having multiple points of agreement here. Well, I know that we are a little bit past the hour here. I want to thank you guys for spending part of your Thursday night with us. It's awesome to meet so many parents, especially so many new parents. Thank you guys for getting involved so quickly. It's amazing that you're doing that. We look forward to getting to know you even more. And for everybody else, it's always lovely to see you guys. Thank you also for joining. What we're going to do from here, as I mentioned, is Elena, Steve, myself, Stefan, we're going to recap over the next couple of days, summarize our takeaways, and then we're going to be meeting next week with the folks who run the WarnMe system at Cal, who are responsible for the Clery Act compliance, and share this feedback in an organized way with them to say, look, here's what we think could be done to improve the system. We'll also share a recording of this meeting with them if they choose to watch that, to hear some of the questions and comments that were directly raised. So thank you guys. If you have any questions that you didn't get a chance to ask tonight, or if you couldn't get yourself off mute to ask that question, you know where to find us, hopefully on our Facebook Safe Bears discussions group, or you can just email contact@safebears.org. That goes to me or to any of us. So yeah, we're thrilled you guys are here, and thanks as always for being involved and making a difference. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.